Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me today. It's Allan Laboucan with the Rocks and Stocks News Show. I got a special edition for you today. Every year, there's a trend that happens in the junior mining sector um, that creates quite an opportunity, and that's the tax loss selling season. What happens is that investors that are trying to position themselves to take advantage of taxes. They've got gains and they want to write off those gains against their losses. We'll lock in the losses. And today, December the 28th, is the final day of tax loss selling in Canada. That's important for me because most of the companies that I follow are listed, all of the companies that I follow are listed in Canada, and that's where they get most of their daily volume. So this has a significant impact on the sector, the junior mining sector, and sometimes it even affects the good companies, the companies that I've been talking about recently in my reports about power charts and charts of companies that I think will be power charts in the not too distant future. I'm going to give you a list of those at the end, but this show, the beginning anyways, is really about the tax loss selling stocks. This year, and then generally what happens is they get beaten down so much in November and December that shortly after, like sometimes the next day, a lot of these stocks start performing much better. And going into January, February, you can see 100 to 200% gains on a lot of these kind of stocks if you pick them right. One of the key things that I think is important to pick right is that they also have to have catalysts that can move the stock forward. You can't just buy beaten down junior mining stocks because they're beaten down at tax loss selling. If they have no catalyst going forward in the early part of the year, then you're probably not going to see those 100 to 200% gainers. But I picked a group here that has good news pending. And I also believe that this year is going to be quite unique because as a lot of these stocks have been getting beaten down, things are actually turning for the good for the price of gold. And I think that trend is going to continue. My main arguments is that, for most of 2022, the US dollar had been in a powerful move. This put pressure on the gold price. In September, the US dollar started to roll over as investors started to think that the Federal Reserve might slow down on their interest rates. They finally have in December, and they're talking about the concerns of over tightening. The yield curves are inverting. The Fed has talked about the concerns for over tightening. And they have also said that their peak rate's going to be about 5%, 5.5%. So they only have maybe 3 more quarter point moves left in them, or 1 3/4 point move, however you slice it. So I think that the US dollar is going to stay under pressure for 2023. And as that's been happening with the US dollar, gold has been going up. And I think that we're going through it. We'll have a golden cross on gold in January. And I think that that's going to help the tax loss selling candidates perform very well. So that's your intro, and I'm going to get right into the first company today. And that company is a company called, let me just share this screen. That company is called BlackRock Silver Corp. I recently started covering BlackRock Silver when they made an announcement from their project in Nevada. Their silver, I forget what the name of it is, sorry. anyways, their project is this Silver Crest, I believe it's called. Can't remember. My old memory's getting to me. Anyways, they had some excellent results, and including very high grades of gold and silver. Funny enough, the stock got under pressure after that news was out, which is quite surprising to me on a general sense. Looking at it from a seasonal perspective, it's not very far from its 52-week low. So it's definitely, as you can see, the way it's trading is on a tax loss selling candidate. So then I want to look at the catalyst. So the key catalyst that I see going forward for the company is they've got their Tonopah project in Nevada. They have a very excellent resource at Tonopah. It's a high grade 450 ounce grams per ton silver resource. And they've been doing step out drilling and expanding the footprint of that resource. And a lot of those holes are still pending. Another catalyst is that they should be getting ready in the early, maybe January, February, talking about going back to their project where they got the high grade gold and silver and drilling there again. And then they've also got a lithium project that looks quite promising as well. They've got some excellent grades out of that. Not too long ago, I interviewed Andrew Pollard, the CEO of the company, and he has mentioned, not just on my show, but on other shows, that they're looking at a way to monetize that asset. So there you go. There's three catalyst areas. The project in the north part of Nevada, and where they had this nice hit of high-grade gold and silver. Then they got their project at Tonopah, where they have a substantial resource of high-grade silver that has a bunch of pending news on it. And then their lithium asset, the potential to monetize that. So as you can see, lots of catalysts. The stock right now, it looks like the 50-day moving average is bottoming out, and the 200-day average has come down quite a bit. So it's not going to take a lot of momentum to turn that 50-day moving average around and head into the bullish direction and towards a golden cross, which is exactly what I think you'll see. They're very undervalued relative to the quality of their resource, and they have a bunch of pending results. Plus, they've got the catalyst that gold and silver could go much higher. So that's one of my my tax loss selling picks. The next company I'm going to talk about is High Gold Mining. High Gold has a very large, well, they've got an exceptional resource up in Alaska. What it is about 1 million ounces at just about 10 grams per ton of gold. Those kind of assets are the kind that make very profitable mines. And I think that they have one of those future mines. I doubt that High Gold would be the one mining it. I think that they'll be bought out. The reason that I think that they could get bought out is that I think that this project, their JT deposit, has the potential to grow to be much larger than 2 million ounces, maybe even get into that 2 to 5 million ounce range. And for a lot of gold miners that would like to have a 10 gram per ton resource of over 1 million ounces, this fits the bill. Now, not very far from their JT deposit, they've drilled into another zone that looks like it has the same kind of rocks as a JT deposit, what makes it quite unique is it has some spectacularly high grades of gold and silver. Late last year, they reported that they hit over 500 grams of gold, and instead of in grams per ton, the silver was in kilograms per ton. So, excuse me, very high grade material at what they're now calling their Ellis zone. So this year they went in there, drilled a bunch more holes, and they've shown that that Ellis zone has excellent continuity of the high grade. But what makes it even more exceptional is that it's a target that could be open pit mined with remarkably high grades. Factors of multiples of what most of the open pit mines are being mined at these days. You know, it's well under a gram, and if you look at the continuity of their high grade in the Ellis zone, it could be in the several grams. So you're looking at significant multiples of, you know, what are mines in the world right now for open pits. Plus, they have other targets on the property where they could develop other zones. But if you look at the combination of their JT deposit, which is an exceptional resource, and their Ellis zone, they've got a heck of a combination of assets. They have some more assay results to come out. You know, there's a good combination of catalysts for them, and they look to have also benefit from the price of, sorry, someone was having their alarm going off outside my office. They also look to have the benefit of a stronger gold market coming forward. As you can see, their 50-day moving average is right now at its lows for the year, and it's not going to take a lot of buying. This stock would only have to move up 20-25 cents, and it would be at a golden cross. I think this is another good candidate for a golden cross in the new year. They've got catalysts, and most importantly, they've got some exceptional assets that are currently being undervalued, and I think that that has a lot to do with suffering from the tax loss selling season. So I think a relief rally will get them to be a golden cross, and a candidate for that is more news from their projects in Alaska. Plus, they've also got a very good project in Ontario. Their project out there has some of the highest grades of gold ever found in Ontario. It's quite exceptional target out there. So they could have catalysts from that as well. So I think the company is very undervalued. It's suffering from tax loss selling. It will benefit from a stronger market for gold going forward because they've got such a quality asset in their JT deposit. And now this Ellis zone is looking quite exceptional to me. So stay tuned for news out of that company, and another good candidate for tax loss selling stock picks. Okay, a new company that I started following not too long ago. I did an interview with their chairman, is a company called Firefox. What makes Firefox interesting to me is that they're in Finland, and Finland has really been a success story for some of the discoveries that have been made out there. Rupert Resources has done extremely well. I better bring up the right chart while I'm talking about Firefox. And there's others that are making some important orogenic gold discoveries in Finland. They recently completed drilling, and they have assay results pending. So as you can see in their stock price, it's again another 50-day moving average that is right down at its yearly lows. It does look like it has bottomed and is starting to probably trend upwards very soon. I think it's very oversold considering the success stories that have been in Finland. And these guys have also drilled into some excellent grades already. Now, the results that they have pending, I'm quite optimistic about. They had some descriptions of what they hit, and it sounds to me like they can deliver some excellent results with that drilling once they come out with assays. I think that there's a pretty good chance that they'll have those assays out in the first couple weeks of January. Therefore, another one with the right kind of trading pattern for a tax loss selling pick, the catalyst going forward with their own news. Another catalyst being that gold gets stronger, which I think, as I said earlier, I think that's already happening. I like what I see with their the 50-day moving average seems to be bottoming and looks like it could start trending upwards. And it wouldn't take a big move to get that to a golden cross. And with the news that they have pending, if it comes out like they described in their when they announced they had done these drill holes, then I think we could see a very nice action in that stock in January and February. So another very good tax laws selling candidate. As I said, I recently interviewed their chairman, so you can find that on my YouTube channel at Rocks and Stocks News on YouTube. And actually, I've interviewed BRC, BlackRock recently. I've interviewed High Gold's Darwin Green. And yeah, so you can check out all of these companies in my interviews. Okay, the next company I'm going to talk about is a company called Amex Exploration. Now, for some of my viewers, you might know this story because I started covering it when it was like a 50-cent stock. It's been upwards of well over $3 a share since I started covering it back in 2019. And when I was covering it closely with interviews, they were a sponsor of my website. They're no longer a sponsor of my website, but I'm still very bullish on their projects. They're in Quebec, and in Quebec they found an exciting combination of assets. But as you can see, they're not getting a lot of respect for their kind of a Rodney Dangerfield right now. They're not getting a lot of respect. And why I think that they should is they've got a high-grade open pit target at their Denise zone. Sitting right beside the Denise zone that could be accessed from the bottom of an open pit at Denise is their high-grade zone. At their high-grade zone, they have exceptional high-grade gold continuity that starts right at surface and goes all the way down to over 1,000 meters of depth. That's the kind of thing you see in these orogenic gold systems. What you want to look for in any gold system, a high-grade gold system especially, is the continuity of that high grade. You can't have sporadic distribution of your high-grade gold because to get to the high-grade gold, you got to go through a lot of waste rock, and that costs you money, and it dilutes the grade of the high grade. But these guys don't have to worry about that because they've got lots of continuity of their high grade. So then they've also drilled outside of the high grade zone, and they found other zones that look like the high grade zone. What's also really interesting to me is that these group of discoveries are all in close proximity. They're tightly packed in between two faults. And as you follow the southern fault and the northern fault, you go a little more to the east and you run into the intersection of two faults. Now, these orogenic gold systems, they are structurally controlled, meaning that these big faults or cracks in the earth or the conduit, they go very deep, thousands of meters, and they're the conduit that the gold-bearing fluids make their way up through the path of least resistance through those faults. And not very far from this tightly packed group of high-grade zones and the Denise zone is the intersection of two of these faults. I think that's a perfect conduit, and I think ultimately that because these zones are so tightly packed that they likely connect at depth. That's a very exciting exploration story. Right now, they're trading not very much above their 52-week low. The 50-day moving average is bottoming out. They don't have a big gap, 30, 40 cents to see the 50-day move above the 200-day into a golden cross. They've been drilling like crazy in 2022, so they have tons of pending results. They can drill year round. They're just catalyst-rich company that is being undervalued right now, and I think it's tremendously undervalued relative to the quality of the deposits that they found. And I think ultimately they've got a mine up there. Amex won't be the one that mines it. I think that they'll be taken out by a much bigger company. But I also believe that that will be at a significantly higher price than the current valuation gives it. So there's another of my tax loss selling picks. The next company is a copper-focused company called Bell Copper. They're down in Arizona. They're in an elephant country for these kind of deposits. And they've got an interesting story. I don't want to get too much into the geology on it, but they believe that they see the bottom of a system that is, and the rest of the system is down in the valley due to geological processes. They think that the top of that system is down in the valley, buried underneath it, underneath cover. And they've hit some good intersections. They've hit some interesting stuff, but they haven't sort of hit the sweet spot of the system yet. They've got a very good geologist running the company, and he's got dogged determination that he believes strongly in this project. And I believe he's onto something that offers investors the potential for very significant gains. As you can see, the stock right now is trading right on its 52-week low. It's trading below its 50-day moving average. This is your typical action for a tax loss selling victim. I think that they have catalysts going forward that can make that stock turn around. Again, it's not that far from seeing a golden cross with some good news. And I'm a big believer in copper stories because, the supply and demand story based on what's currently coming out in the mines and the demand that's coming from electric vehicles, that we need more copper discoveries. And where they're looking is in elephant country, and their CEO thinks that they have an elephant to find. I think they've kind of clipped the edges of that elephant so far. And I think he's the right guy to find that elephant. And, there's really just not a lot of good copper stories out there. And so I like this one a lot. Bell Copper, BCU is their symbol. Another good candidate for your tax loss selling purposes. Again, 52-week low, trading under its 50-day moving average. Looks like that 50-day moving average could bottom. They likely have the catalysts going into January, February for that to happen. So I think it's another excellent tax loss selling pick. Okay, the final company that I'm going to talk about is a company that I used to follow. Oh, I got to be going back 6 or 7 years ago. And they've got a project up in Alaska. It's got a resource of 1.196 million ounces indicated at a grade of 10.23 grams per ton gold. Those kind of assets, as I was talking about High Gold, which also has one of those kind of assets, is the kind of thing that makes a very profitable mine. And there just aren't enough of those out there for the mid-tier companies that could make a lot of money mining something like this. Now, of course, a million ounces or more, or, you know, 1 million or 2 million ounces is kind of too small for the major mining companies. It wouldn't make a dent. But for a mid-tier, it could be a nice cash machine. And they have drilled a bunch of holes that the assays are pending, so they've got the right catalyst potential. They have an asset that I think is being undervalued relative to the scarcity of these kind of deposits, and that they make very profitable mines when you have grades of 10 grams per ton in a high grade mine. It has the potential to get bigger. They've got a bunch of pending assay results. Stock's trading not very far from its 52-week low. Recently went through a nice little breakout that got it trading above the 50-day moving average. So what I think you'll see happen there is that the 50-day moving average starts to bottom and then move towards a golden cross. The 200-day moving average has come down quite a bit and has the potential to move, have a golden cross fairly easily. Another catalyst, just like a lot of these other gold stocks that I follow, gold and silver for that matter, is that got a stronger market for gold coming up, and I think that that's going to be beneficial for a grand Portage. Yeah, it's a good sign that it going into tax loss, the end of tax loss selling, that it's kind of jumped the gun and already started to move above its 50-day moving average. So that's why I like Grand Portage as a tax loss selling pick. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing here. And what I want to do is I just quickly want to go over, there's sort of there's a group of, I kind of put things into baskets. So you've got your tax loss selling, and there's a lot of candidates out there. It's been a tough market for gold stocks, and where gold goes often goes the other metals, and by extension also goes the stocks in those kind of companies. There's a lot of tax loss selling victims this year. But I've been fortunate to have, out of the group of companies that I follow very closely, I have a good portion that are in the what I call power charts. They're significantly bucking the trend relative to a lot of the stocks that are suffering from tax loss. Then I have a group that is in what I call sort of no man's land between being a tax loss victim and being a power chart. And I think that these companies are headed towards being power charts of the near future. So in preparation for this tax loss selling show, I have recently started using Substack, and Substack makes it really easy for me to produce videos, distribute those videos, do writing, do podcasts, and then incorporate my email list that I built up since I started doing my reports in 2005. It brings it all together into something that I can hit one button and it goes out to everybody, and they have a really good platform for me to do my content on. And it kind of motivated me recently to start writing more. Written reports take me a lot longer than clicking the play button or the record button on a video and talking about a group of companies. But I've kind of been in the groove lately of writing reports again. And a lot of my old audience found me when I just had an email report that it only went out through email. So in the past, I used to do a lot of writing. And this Substack website has me motivated to want to write again. So in the last, since on Christmas Day, I wrote a special report. And in that report, I talked about some of these changes that I'm having at Rocks and Stocks News. I talked about why I like gold and other metals. And then I talked about I-80 Gold. I-80 Gold has just a phenomenal story. They're a power chart. They've had great results out. And throughout 2022 on more than one project, I actually believe that they have two world-class projects that they're developing that they're exploring and developing at the exact same time. And if you look at the quality of their assets, they're trading at a significant bargain to just the resources, let alone the ability to grow the resources based on what they've been finding in their news all year. So I did a report and I talked about I-80 Gold on Christmas Day. Then on Boxing Day, I did, how does it go here, December 27th. Then I did a report the next day and I talked about some other stocks that I call power charts. And those were 4 companies that are in Eureka, Nevada. And one of those companies is I-80 Gold. And I-80 Gold is the leader in that camp. But then they've got Paycore Minerals, Golden Lake Exploration, and Timberline around them. And that's another one that I covered those 4 companies on Boxing Day. Then yesterday, I put out another power chart show. All of these companies in the power chart category are companies that I've followed extensively in my reports. So I'm pretty happy to see that in a bad market for mining stocks, I've got a high percentage that are power charts bucking the trend. So then on Boxing Day, or yesterday, the 27th, I included 9 Mile Metals because they're a base metal story that I really like. Walker River Resources. They're a gold story that I like in Nevada that has a bunch of pending results. Fireweed Metals has been making some exceptional news that has driven their stock into power chart status. And Prismo Metals has a great group of projects, or a great 2 really good projects down in Mexico that I really like their story and their valuation. So those were my power charts that I wrote about in December 25th, 26th, 27th. And today, earlier today, I put out a report on stocks that I think could be power charts of the future. And those were Sokoman Minerals and Galantis Gold. Both of these companies are looking for orogenic gold systems. They have them in their drilling. They have found high-grade gold in their drilling. They're kind of at junctures, exciting junctures in the exploration of orogenic gold systems. And I really like those companies as well. And you can find those reports on my Substack site at rocksandstocks.substack.com. And I've interviewed the management of all of these companies, including most of the companies on my tax loss selling report today. So you can find all of those interviews on my YouTube channel at Rocks and Stocks News. So there you go, folks. I'm really excited about this year's tax loss selling season because I found a good group, 6 companies that I think are oversold due to tax loss selling, not because of their fundamentals. They all have catalysts to move forward. And the big catalyst is that gold is ready to, it has been performing well for the last couple months of 2022. I think it's going to have a strong January, which is an important indicator to me. It's called the January effect. And what happens is a lot of mutual funds and institutions, they position themselves in January in things that they think will do well in the year ahead. It is often a good indicator of what will be good performers in 2023. I think we're going to have an exceptional January effect for the price of gold, and that's why I think that we've got sort of a 1-2 punch. We've got the tax loss selling victims and a stronger market for gold. And again, all of these companies have catalysts. So there you go, folks. That's my annual tax loss selling season, silly season, if you will, picks. And as always, my shows are for information purposes only, research purposes. It's important for you to speak with your financial advisors before making any investment decision. It's also important for you to do your homework. Good place to start that homework is on my YouTube channel at Rocks and Stocks News, where I've interviewed most of the companies that I talked about today. And then also go to their websites, check out their news releases and their corporate presentations. On that note, have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.